Dear students, so the title of the first lesson is His First Flight. I have already told you the outline story. So it is about the young seagull which has to make an attempt to fly just like its brothers and little sister. So how it is motivated and encouraged by the parent seagulls. So this is what we are going to see first three paragraphs. Okay, page number 2. Now I start with the fourth paragraph, page number 2. So far what has happened? So the young seagull is afraid of making an attempt to fly from the ledge, whereas its brothers and little sister had already flown away. Still it is afraid of making such an attempt. It keeps itself in the same place. The sun now was ascending the sky. So the sun is coming up in the sky, blazing warmly on his ledge that faced the south. So the sun has risen. He felt the heat because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. So the parent seagulls, they are very determined to make it fly because they give it a situation. What is the situation? Unless it makes an attempt to fly, it will not get its food. If it wants to have food, it has to fly. So it had not eaten for about a day. Then he had found a dried piece of mackerel's tail, which means it is a kind of edible fish, at the far end of his ledge. Now there was not a single scrap of food left. So it could not find food there. So not even a piece of fish there. He had searched every inch, rooting among the rough, dirt-caked straw nest where he and his brothers and sister had been hatched. So he went in search of food. So it is making some rounds to find food, but all went in vain because it had not eaten food for about a day. He even gnawed at the dried pieces of eggshell. So it tried to chew the dried pieces of eggshell. It was like eating a part of himself. So it hates it. It hates it totally because it is in dead need of food. He then trotted back and forth from one end of the ledge to the other. So it starts running here and there in order to catch the attention of the parent seagulls. His long grey legs stepping daintily, which means anxiously it is looking for food. So it expects that it would be fed by the parent seagulls. That's why in order to attract the attention of the parent seagulls, it is doing so. Trying to find some means of reaching his parents without having to fly. So even now it is not ready to make an attempt to fly. It is not ready to fly because it is afraid of falling down. But on each side of him the ledge ended in a sheer fall of precipice with the sea beneath. So beneath the cliff or the ledge, it can find the vast expanse of sea. So it is afraid of falling down. And between him and his parents there was a deep wide crack. So there was a gap. If it had to reach the parents, it had to fly. If it did not fly, it wouldn't catch the parents. Surely he could reach them without flying if he could only move northwards along the cliff face, but then on what could he walk? So there was a gap between the parents and the young seagull. So how could it reach the parents? Because it had to fly. So this is the situation given to the young seagull by its parent seagulls. There was no ledge and he was not a fly. If it were a fly, it would fly. And above him he could see nothing. The precipice was sheer. It means it is referring to the steep side of a cliff. The precipice was sheer. It was so thin and the top of it was perhaps farther away than the sea beneath him. So it tells itself that it can fly. So every failure gives us some reasons because they have not made some genuine efforts to succeed. First of all, you have to make an attempt. When you are not ready to make an attempt, how can you expect good results? So, if you would like to have good results, make an attempt. You may get failed at first, but very soon you will succeed. He stepped slowly out to the brink of the ledge. So, it comes closer to the edge of the ledge, and standing on one leg with the other leg hidden under his wing, he closed one eye, then the other, and pretended to be falling asleep. So, it is pretending. Pretending means acting. It is acting that it has fallen asleep. Still they took no notice of them. So, all these things are done by the young seagull in order to get the attention of the parent seagulls, so that it could be given food without any attempt to fly. He saw his two brothers and his sister lying on the plateau dozing with their heads sunk into their necks. His father was preening the feathers on his white back. Only his mother was looking at him. So, it is being watched by its mother seagull only. So, its brothers, little sister and the father. So, they are just wandering. They are just flying very happily. She was standing on a little high hump on the plateau. Hump means tip. It was sitting on the tip. Her white breast thrust forward now and again. She tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. The sight of the food maddened him. So, in order to tempt the young seagull to fly, it is doing so. So, it is tearing a piece of a piece from the body of the dead fish, because on seeing the food it may get tempted, so that it may fly, it may try to fly. How he loved to tear food that way, scraping his beak now and again to wet it. So, it has to keep its beak very sharp so that it can tear the pieces. He uttered a low cackle. Cackle means sound that is produced by a bird. His mother cackled too and looked at him. So, it has also made an attempt to make it fly. So, now the food has maddened the young seagull, because it is in dead need of food. It has not eaten food for almost a day. Ga ga ga, he cried, begging her to bring him over some food. It is not ready to fly even now. So, it is making some sounds, some continuous sounds to get the food for it. Ga oh ha, she screamed back mockingly, but he kept calling plaintively, and after a minute or so he uttered a joyful scream. His mother had picked up a piece of fish and was flying across to him with it. He leaned out eagerly, tapping the rock with his feet, trying to get nearer to her as she flew across. So, if you want to make it fly, you have to take the small piece of food, you just get closer to it, so that on seeing it, it may try. Because if you want to, I have already told you, if you want to know the art of swimming, first of all you have to jump into the water. If you are afraid of water, how can you learn the art of swimming? Yes, there is a risk, but you have to take the risk. If there is no risk, there will be no life too. So, it still expects its mother seagull to bring it food, but it is trying, the mother seagull is trying to tempt the young seagull so that it may get some atoms. But when she was just opposite to him, abreast of the ledge, she halted, her legs hanging limp, her wings motionless, the piece of fish in her beak almost within the reach of his beak. So, now it has come closer to the young seagull. So, it has come closer to the young seagull, and what does it have? It has a piece of fish. He waited a moment in surprise, wondering why she did not come nearer, and then, maddened by hunger, he dived at the fish with a loud scream. He fell outwards and downwards into space. His mother had swooped upwards. As he passed beneath her, he heard the swish of her wings. So, it is quite surprising for the young seagull, because it has food, and that food is obviously for this young seagull, but it doesn't come closer. So it doesn't have that much time to think about it because it is starving. It hasn't eaten, you know that, I have already told you so many times. It has not eaten for almost a day. So it wants to get closer to the food. It wants to, it goes nearer the mother seagull. So without noticing the ledge, so it is on the brink of the ledge. Without noticing it, it simply dives at the food, the fish. Then a monstrous terror seized him and his heart stood still. He could hear nothing, but it only lasted a moment. The next moment he felt his wings spread outwards. So it falls down. So at that moment its heart gets stopped. It stops. But within a few seconds it is able to use the wings. The wind rushed against his breast feathers, then under his stomach and against his wings. He could feel the tips of his wings cutting through the air. He was not falling headlong now. Now with the help of the wings, it is able to do something. Now it realizes that it is not falling down. It is no more. I mean, that fear is no more. He was soaring gradually downwards and outwards. He was no longer afraid. Now it has got rid of fear. He just felt a bit dizzy. Dizzy means feeling, having the giddiness. Then he flapped his wings once and he soared upwards. Now with the help of the wings, it is able to fly upwards. So before the attempt, it thought that it wouldn't use the wings because it thought it could not be supported by the wings. But what has happened? It is able to use the wings as it likes. Now it is flying upwards. He uttered a joyous scream and flapped them again. So it becomes very happy. So due to the joyful mood, it is making some sound. He soared higher. He raised his breast and banged against the wind. Ga 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 ga. So it is cackling. It is producing high-pitched sounds. His mother swooped past him, her wings making a loud noise. He answered her with another scream. Then his father flew over him screaming. Then he saw his two brothers and sister flying around him, soaring and diving. Now its attempt is appreciated by the family. So the mother seagull, the father seagull, his two brothers and his little sister, all of them are showing some kind of appreciation because after a long struggle, it is able to fly now. So they are just appreciating and they are screaming. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly and commenced to dive and soar, shrieking shrilly. Now it has become so joyful. So it is making high pitch of sounds very happily and it is able to dive and catch the fish. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it, facing out over the ocean. He saw a vast green sea beneath him with little ridges moving over it. He turned his beak sideways and crowed amusedly. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on this green floor in front of him. They were beckoning him to him, calling shrilly. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. Now it is being taught how to land on the surface of the water, because you might have watched the legs of the birds. It would have the web. It would have the web between the fingers. So with the help of the webbed legs, it is able to stand on the surface of the water. Not for a longer time, but for a while. His legs sank into it. He screamed with fright and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. But he was tired and weak with hunger, and he could not rise, exhausted by the strange exercise. So even though it is happy, it has got a very joyful mood, it is again getting tired of it. Okay, so the legs are going inside the water. His feet sank into the green sea and then his belly touched it and he sank no further. So it couldn't sink because the bird is always lightweighted. Its bones have air, so it cannot sink. He was floating on it, so it realizes that it can float on the surface of the water. And around him, his family was screaming, praising him, and their beaks were offering him scraps of dogfish. He had made his first flight. So now it has understood the art of skimming and diving at fish. It knows how to deal with life on the surface of the water. Now it is appreciated and it is fed by its parent seagulls. At last he had made his first flight. So the message is very simple. What is that? Everything is possible if we believe in ourselves. When you are told, if anybody tells you that you cannot do it, you are supposed to believe in yourself. You shouldn't believe the words of others. You have to listen to your inner voice. When you think you can do it, you can do it. So first of all, you have to tell yourself that you can do it. That's it. So that's why it could make its first flight. Okay, dear students, you will be sent the study material for the first unit. So you have been taught the first lesson and the first poem. So there will be a test. I mean the worksheet will be sent to you. So the first worksheet will be related to poetry. A poetry, the first poem has been already taught to you, and the worksheet will be having questions. It will have appreciation questions, figures of speech, and per paragraph question also. Moreover, the first poem is for memorization. So the worksheet will be sent to you very soon, and even before that, the material for the first unit. Probably you would get the study material for the first poem. So you just go through the questions very carefully, prepare for the test and do the test very well. So the test means it is nothing but the worksheet. It will be sent to you. So download the thing, and you have to allot time for English, because it is very important. We don't have that much time in this academic year, because it is always wise to be prepared. So don't waste your time. Don't think that you would have much time in the coming year. So this academic year is going to be entirely different for you. So you need not think that you would have plenty of time to get ready for the public examination. No. So utilize the lockdown days very usefully. So you are given the work, and do the work sincerely and genuinely. So again I remind you of this. You will be sent the study material. Please download the study material, and the worksheet will be sent very soon. So you will have time. So you will have time to complete the worksheet, and you will have to send it back, and all those instructions will be given to you on WhatsApp. Thank you, and prepare well for the test. Thank you, students.